as 4.5-point favorites. Jaylen Brown led the way with 35 points for Boston. LaMelo Ball was having a great year, 36 points in a losing effort. But Boston held Charlotte to 102 last night. Joe Mazzulla talked about the defense after the game.
Honestly, I think our defense kept us in it the entire game. I mean, I think it's another one of those games where anytime I feel like the easy thing when you're losing or not playing well, it's like, oh, it's the defense, and you take a look up and, Ball's got whatever he's got. But in reality, I thought our offense let us down the entire first half, and our defense kept it in and close. And, you get to halftime and you're like, oh, it's a 6-point game. We're not playing the way we need to on the offensive end. And, here's 10 points that we can get better at defensively. You take that away, we're winning. So I thought our defense kept us in, but, in the entire game. I thought we took it to a different level. And then I thought connecting a better offense there made us even better there throughout the second half.
What do you like about your team, how they competed tonight?
Yeah, I love, I think the focus that we had, the defensive intensity that we had early on in that game helped us build a lead. I thought the unselfishness offensively and the pace and execution was great for most of the game. Credit our guys. They came on the road in a hostile environment versus a really good physical team. And I thought they competed to the final buzzer, which is great. Put us in a position to win a game. I felt like our third quarter, into the third quarter, missing that dunk after a great defensive possession, allowed them to get a little bit of momentum with an offensive rebound, some unders versus their three-point shooters, and it bled into the fourth quarter a little bit. So some things to definitely take from tonight, but a ton of really good things.
All right, good things also for the Toronto Raptors last night. They beat the Miami Heat 121-95 as Toronto feeling good heading toward the playoffs. The Miami Heat, not as much. Miami definitely slated for one of the play-in games again coming up next week as the NBA playoffs begin. Scotty Barnes had 25 points and 8 rebounds, but the story really more or less has been the struggles of the Miami Heat all season long. Here's Norman Powell about closing out the season strong.
What happened that this sort of is turned off? There was a point in the season when it was looking so good. Now, by Thursday, you could be locked into number 10.
Yeah, honestly, I don't got the answers. I don't got the answers, but we gotta come up with some in between now and Thursday if we want to try to continue to move up or get to a little better positioning in this play-in. So that's really all that matters, finding out what the answers are. I don't got them right now. Got to go back, watch my clips, see how I can be better, watch the game back, and then when we have our team meeting, be able to have some positive input in how we can correct this stuff.
And we'll have full coverage of the NBA's play-in games next week here on NewsWire. Meanwhile, the Houston Rockets will not be a part of that. Looks like they're locked in almost to the 5 seed, but, things can change in the end. Houston beats Phoenix 119-105. They win and cover as 1.5-point favorites. KD had 24 points yesterday and a nice confidence win, says Kevin Durant, who are currently the 5 seed in the West.
How does that help you heading into the playoffs?
I mean, it's cool for today. When we prepare for the playoffs, we're not going to talk about this game. We're not going to worry about this game. But just the style of play and the continuity from where we've been going the last week or so is cool. But we can't hang our hats on these games. We just got to keep building our habits. And once the next season starts, which is the playoffs, we get rid of all of the stuff that we went through and focus up and focus on our opponent. So, yeah, it's good momentum to have as we finish the season. But once it's over with, we just move on.
All right, meanwhile, last night, the Los Angeles Lakers playing without Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic, and LeBron James. So what do you think happened when they played Oklahoma City? You'd be right. They got blown out. 123-87. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with 25 points. Also, the Clippers had Kawhi Leonard available last night, and they beat the Mavericks 116-106. Cooper Flagg, by the way, in a losing effort, had 25 points and 9 rebounds. All right, let's get to some Major League Baseball action. The Dodgers beat the Blue Jays 4-1. Dodgers' road favorite Shohei Ohtani went 1 for 3. John Schneider yesterday after the game very disappointed in the offensive performance of his Jays.
Not anxiety. I think patience comes into it. What you're swinging at comes into it, and then not being afraid to just take a walk at times. And that's all part of it. So. Again, it's a tricky thing, and pitchers are good. Whether it's starter, reliever, pitchers are good. You have to be convicted in what you're trying to do in every situation. Whether it's bases loaded, nobody out, or first and third, one out, whatever it may be, it's kind of just do your job and move it on to the next guy. That's what we were really good at last year. It's what we, are striving to continue to do, and it's just not happening right now.
Jays off to a slow start. They'll see Shohei Ohtani on the mound today at 4 p.m. Eastern. Meanwhile, the pitchers' duel did come to fruition yesterday as the Red Sox defeated the Brewers 3-2. Garrett Crochet outduels Jacob Mizorowski as Trevor Story went 1 for 4. Boston only got 3 hits and ended up winning this game. Here's Garrett Crochet, not just on his start, but also saying that the Miz did well too.
Kind of always looking for a little bit of an edge wherever you can get it. I think that definitely felt like we needed to stop the bleeding. We got to. That's a really good kid on the other side. We made him throw strikes and we capitalized there in that inning. But clearly the stuff's incredible. We were grinding all night just for base runners, period. Wilson got the first hit in the 4th inning, was it? So a night like tonight, who's on the other side, you kind of know that you got to be on your A game. That's really all.
Much needed win for the San Francisco Giants yesterday. A lot of criticism coming down on them early on in the year. They beat the Phillies 6-0. Pirates defeated the Reds 7-1. Paul Skeens took a no-hitter into the 6th. He picks up the win. And Terry Skubal, the, of course, Cy Young Award winner in the American League, took the L yesterday against the Minnesota Twins. Twins win 4-2. All right, we'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. Less than 24 hours away from the Masters teeing off at Augusta. Brady Kannon weighs in on all of his picks heading into the Green Jacket weekend. We'll be right back. And welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. What a great weekend we have ahead. The Masters tees off tomorrow morning. Can't wait for the beginning of that. So this is it. It's time to place your bets, as they say, and figure out who's going to take home the green jacket this weekend. For that, we check in with Brady Kannon, who joins us now. He's got his full breakdown with us. Another year, Brady. Another Masters. should be a fun weekend at Augusta.
Oh my goodness. If it could only be half as fun as last year's Masters, this is the 40th anniversary of Jack in 86. Jack Nicklaus, the remarkable comeback in the back nine in 1986 to win his 6th green jacket. I think that Masters and last year with Rory are probably the two most exciting additions I've ever seen.
Yeah, fantastic. And of course, Tiger Woods in the middle of those, winning championships and green jackets. Some very, very memorable golf moments. Another one could be created this weekend, but the big question is, will it be recreated by Rory McIlroy, who won the Masters last year, of course, at 11 under par, Justin Rose and he fighting to the bitter end. I think, as you said, it was one of the more memorable finishes as he took home the career Grand Slam. But as we discussed last week on the show, Brady, it's very unlikely that the winner of the Masters repeats the next year. And I wonder your opinion on that. Why is that the case?
Well, I think it's almost like a letdown. You get up on that first tee at Augusta National on Thursday after having won it. I mean, we saw all the emotional drain. It seemed like pounds of weight was lifted off of Rory's shoulders when he'd been trying, I think it was 17 or, how many times has he played the Masters trying to complete the career Grand Slam? It was more than 10, double digits. And so it just came all outpouring when he was able to accomplish it. And so I think to repeat that is very, very difficult. You're right. It rarely ever happens. We haven't seen anybody go back to back since, guess who? Tiger Woods in 2002. So I'm not on Rory this week. History will tell us it just doesn't happen that often. And I'm not going to go there with Scotty Scheffler either, Craig. He just had welcomed a brand new child into the world. Congratulations to he and his wife. But I just don't know if the timing is great because that's hard. It's exciting. It's wonderful. But does it contribute to winning a major championship? And Scotty hasn't been in Scotty type form the last month or two. So I don't know if all the stars are aligning for either one of the two top guys on the odds board, Rory or Scotty.
Yeah, no, definitely the case. I really think that when you look at this year, you have such a big lump of players between 10 and 20 to 1, or at least 22 to 1, that it is certainly tempting. I see some odds moving a little bit this week, but I wonder from your perspective, Brady, if you think it's one of those in that range, the Fitzpatricks, the Fleetwoods. Certainly Hideki Matsuyama, when healthy, has a good shot to win this thing. I know there was a lot of golfers who were really burned by him a few weeks ago. So I guess let's start with this. Who among the top are you landing on your best bet among the favorites?
Well, you probably do want to have at least a couple of those guys on your card because the Masters is a pretty chalky tournament. I mean, look at the last 4 winners: Scotty Scheffler twice, Rory McIlroy, and Jon Rahm. Those are the top of the guys at the odds board. I think Rahm has another great shot to do it again this year. A lot of people like Xander Schauffele. I went down a little bit further and landed on Cameron Young and Hideki Matsuyama. Matsuyama was a guy I bet way back when he was threatening to close out the Phoenix Open. And, that's part of the formula of winning the Masters is having a win or a lot of really good top 10 finishes to begin the season. And when he was there contending at Phoenix, I said, this is my guy. He's been there, done that before, won in 2021. He's won at the correlated courses, Riviera, Kapalua. And then you talk about the odds movement. Hideki Matsuyama was really in the 30s, 35 to 1, what have you, for all year long. And then all of a sudden now he's, below 30 and as low as 20. And I think a lot of it had to do with how he performed last week at the Valero Texas Open. What has caused him problem is off the tee. And he was brilliant off the tee last week in San Antonio. 10th in driving accuracy, 3rd in strokes gained off the tee. So if that part of his game is clicking, he is absolutely a threat.
All right, so let's take a look at odds to be the Masters' first round leader. So this is something probably that you could only bet now or through tomorrow, because naturally we're going to start tomorrow here. The odds, as you see here, and I wonder why this is, Brady, is that why are the odds inflated very much for Scheffler and Bryson DeChambeau and even Rahm. And then some others are kind of the same to win the tournament. How do they land on these odds?
Well, first of all, let me, proceed with caution here. The first round leader market is probably the worst market you can bet into for any golf tournament if you want to cash a ticket. It is the highest hold percentage in the industry as far as golf betting goes. However, that being said, it's also one of the most fun bets you can make. So go lightly, have some fun with it, but don't expect to hit a windfall here. And the other thing is about first round leader at the Masters. It's okay to bet on the same guys that you think are going to win the tournament. 19 out of the last 20 Masters winners have finished inside the top 12 after one round. It's not a catch-up golf tournament. You've got to start out hot. So whoever you think might win the Masters might be your first round leader as well. And I think what you're asking about the prices there, Craig, because it's so random, it's more random to pick the first round leader than it is the winner of a golf tournament. So I think that's why you see the elevated prices. And I actually did take 4 guys that I think have a shot to win. I took Minwoo Lee, Adam Scott, Colin Morikawa, and trying to remember who my other guy, maybe Cam Young. I can't remember who my 4th guy was, but I actually bet him to finish top 5 in the first round.
Anything else, Brady, before we go? Any other bets you want to throw out there before we wrap?
I like Colin Morikawa this week, Craig. You've got to be careful because there's injury concern, but I'm going to gamble that his health is fine. I'm rooting for this guy to be healthy, and if he is, I think he has a great week.
Yeah, and at 27-1 seems like a really good value there. Brady, enjoy the Masters. Thanks again. Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. It is awesome to catch up with our next guest. Of course, you may be very familiar with him, being a super agent in the National Football League for 5 decades. It is incredible to see Lee Steinberg still doing it at a high level, getting ready for another NFL draft coming up here. Lee, it's It's really remarkable that you've been at this so long, and I do want to certainly talk about this book that you have because I think it's super intriguing to find out all of the stories that you're now sharing with the public. But thank you so much for coming on the show. It's great to see you.
My pleasure, Craig.
All right, so Lee, before we get to the book, let's talk about this here. I mean, what keeps you going on here and doing this for so long? Another NFL draft's coming up in a couple of weeks. I mean, you certainly have accomplished everything that there is to accomplish being an agent, having a movie made about you. For those unfamiliar, Jerry Maguire, 30 years of Jerry Maguire, one of my favorite movies too. What keeps you going here, Lee?
A passion for trying to make a difference in the world. So the athletes are role models, and they retrace their roots to the high school, collegiate, and professional communities, set up scholarship funds and charitable foundations. And I've been very active in the journey to try to discover how we limit concussions and how we put some highlight on that. We do an agent academy in a couple weeks that trains young agents, and there are always new challenges.
Yeah, definitely so. And by the way, Lee's book is out. It's The Comeback, a playbook for turning life's setbacks into victories. So there's a number of things in the book, and you see that QR code on your screen, folks. For those of you who are streaming, just take out your phone. You can scan that QR code either now. We'll show it at the end of the segment too. Lee, 51 drafts for you. I can only imagine there are so many stories in the book, but the one in particular that I love the story that you tell so well is one of the most popular quarterbacks in the history of the NFL, Troy Aikman. My gosh, when you had Troy Aikman and he was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, the turn of events that happened so quickly after is incredible.
So this book's about resilience and coming back. And in Troy's case, he's the first pick overall in the 1989 draft. He gets picked and promised the world by the Dallas Cowboys. And then a month later, they have a supplemental draft, and they draft Jimmy Johnson, the new coach's quarterback, who took him to the national championship. And all of a sudden, Troy, with very little talent around him, is ensconced in a quarterback controversy, even though he'd been promised he'd be the long-term quarterback there. So it tells a tale that life will inevitably set us back. It could be financial, it could be health, it could be relationships, or it could be, as in my case, substance abuse. And the question is, how do you recover? How do you show resilience and the ability to strike a better future?
And resiliency, the story of one of your other longtime clients and good friends, Warren Moon. I mean, before this day and age of the last 20, 25 years of the National Football League, Warren Moon, one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the NFL, but had a hard time convincing teams, Lee, that he could be quarterback in the NFL. I mean, simply put, teams did not draft and develop African-American quarterbacks until they gave Warren Moon a shot.
I know it's hard to believe now, but there was a period where there was great doubt as to whether a black quarterback had the wherewithal to play the position. And so Warren goes to Canada for 6 years, where he's most valuable player. And then he comes back with 12 teams bidding on him to be a free agent and plays 17 more years in the NFL. So he and I grew up together with 23 years together.
And Lee, we have about a minute to go here. The book is called The Comeback, a playbook for turning life's setbacks into victories. I know certainly this is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and stores as well. And what would you encourage people to learn most about you, Lee, when they read the book?
That the quality of being able to get back up on your feet, the quality of being able to envision a better life than current circumstances is important for us all.
Lee, it's been great to catch up with you. I've always had fun through the years. I look for that invitation to your Super Bowl party every year. If I go to the Super Bowl, to make sure I am there. Lee, thank you again. Enjoy your rest of your week.
Thank you.
All right, Lee Steinberg here with us. We will come back next and get into the latest in the NCAA tournament, talk about who bet what in March Madness. Don't go away. All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Great to have Sam McQuillan in the house from Legal Sports Report as we get ready to hit the NBA playoff scene. I'm sure Sam and I will be discussing some betting options, and folks had a lot of options during the NCAA tournament, more than ever with these prediction markets. And Sam, it does appear the prediction markets ended up doing okay here, and maybe because of the fact that they offered a better VIG potentially than some of the other sports betting options. That does make a ton of sense.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see these numbers roll in off March Madness. First, with prediction markets like Kalshi reporting just the sheer total volume they took on the tournament. Kalshi took about $1.8 billion on March Madness, which includes season-long futures bets as well. So bets placed before the tournament. But if you look at that 1.8 billion figure, that's about 3 times what it took on the U.S. presidential election a few years ago, which is its most traded market, and about the same as the total platform volume it took in all of 2024. So a ton of trading activity on Kalshi. I'll note, though, that the trading volume that these prediction markets report is not entirely the same as the handle that a sportsbook report, because the handle is pure total dollars wagered, while the trading volume is more a contract that can be traded multiple times. So we're still kind of trying to figure out how exactly this all matches up to the sportsbook stuff. But Citizens had a really interesting note about the pricing, which you mentioned, Craig, specifically on game winner markets or money line markets and game total markets, over under on how much points is scored in one game.
Mm-hmm.
It found that Kalshi had the best pricing on those markets in about 47 out of 67 total tournament games, compared to sports books like DraftKings, which I think only had the best pricing on about 5 or 17 rather, and FanDuel only had the best pricing on about 5. So Kalshi beating the sports books on prices on really active games this time of year. But really important to note too that that's not player props, that's not spreads, or the other markets that are really popular on sports books. I think these markets are only about, I would say, maybe 20% of total activity on sports books. And we've really seen nothing so far in the 7.5 years of legal sports betting to suggest really that customers actually care about these pricing differentials. I think for Kalshi, it would mean, if you bet $100, you maybe save $7 on a bet versus DraftKings or FanDuel. And as you know very well, Craig, customers don't really care about that. They kind of only care about same game parlays and long shot bets, which are at least the majority of customers that are on these sports books and the ones that these want to hold on to. So it'll be really interesting to see how, Kalshi moves forward with this kind of activity, especially as we round over into football season. They're obviously trying to develop their same game parlay product as well. But some interesting stats so far from March Madness.
Definitely so. Football season, though, Sam, gotta wait a few months. Feels like we're still far away from football season. But I digress. I'm heavy into baseball. All right, the CFTC initiating some action against some of the states that don't want the prediction markets operating there. And so we're getting some landmark movement here in legislature. You could read all about this over at legalsportsreport.com. But Sam, if this ends up coming to fruition, this is a very big win for the prediction markets if they reverse some of these dealings by the states.
Yeah, so far in this kind of prediction markets versus sports books versus states whole legal battle, which spans almost 20 cases, it's really been Kalshi and Polymarket versus the state gaming regulators. But yet for the first time just late last week, the CFTC, which is the federal agency that says it's supposed to be the one regulating sports prediction markets, they came out and they sued Arizona, Connecticut, and Illinois, which are notably just 3 of the many states that are suing Kalshi and Polymarket to stop them from operating. CFTC basically trying to assert its exclusive federal jurisdiction over these markets. It's arguing that these are federally regulated derivatives, while the states are arguing that those are actually just sports betting products indistinguishable from what their laws say they can offer. They have to pay taxes, they have to follow their rules, etc. So it's notable that this is really the first time we've seen a federal agency get involved in a case like this. It's really only been companies versus the states. The CFTC is now kind of trying to defend its jurisdiction going forward. Certainly, we have no idea how this is all going to end up with the myriad of cases. We just had New Jersey ruling in favor of Kalshi in a 2-1 split decision, basically allowing the product to keep existing in New Jersey while these court cases unfold. States have largely won most of the other cases, about 14 out of 16, at least in the initial early rulings part, where basically a state is trying to stop them from currently operating while the cases play out. So that's a long way of saying this will all probably be decided by the Supreme Court eventually, maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years. But now that the CFTC is, going on the aggressive launching its own lawsuits, it kind of changes the dynamic a little bit and really shows that they're aligning themselves with these sports prediction markets. And I'll also note too, it's pretty interesting to note that these 3 states out of the 17 or 20 suing, all Democratic governors and all states that have taken action against these prediction markets. Obviously, the new regime in the White House has been very pro prediction markets, opposite of kind of the previous regime. So probably a lot more legal fees and lawyers on the way, but we'll keep monitoring it.
Sam, let's end with this. Louisiana considering banning prop bets, and then they took a look at the amount of money that they made as a state and said, wait a second here, maybe we're not doing as well as we are. It's kind of a sad state of affairs if that's really the case here with this, but Louisiana, for the time being, is going to allow prop bets to continue. I hate that it's all about money, but Sam, isn't everything all about money?
Of course, especially in sports betting and especially in state laws, Greg. You have the senator from Louisiana, Katrina Jackson Andrews, filed a bill to ban prop bets, to ban player props, to ban micro bets specifically, worrying that these kind of bets are frankly, lower margin for most average Americans, and they, give way to same game parlays and basically lose people a lot of money and get people addicted to gambling. But she withdrew this bill as soon as a fiscal note was produced that said the state would have lost about $30 million in tax revenue annually if it banned these markets. And that's because they're pretty much the most popular thing that sports books have. Without them, sports books would lose maybe 50% of their annual revenue. So obviously trickles down to the states. You mentioned it's kind of unfortunate to see it's all about money, but that's kind of what she came out and said this week when she said, I didn't really consider the financial repercussions, but I'm not done with proposing some sort of legislation regulating the space. Notably, what wasn't mentioned is something we've talked about a bunch too, is the integrity issues in sports. Major League Baseball changed their micro betting rules a bit after the Cleveland Guardians investigations came to light. There's been a lot of talk about banning prop bets outright in other sports, college sports specifically, that can allow people to manipulate these outcomes to kind of, rig money and, win for some illicit betting ring or something like that. So that wasn't brought up here, but I think it's important to note in the larger conversation of overall prop betting reform. But the first thing I think, first and foremost, is it would wipe out about half of the money that sports books make, and obviously in turn a lot of the taxes that the states make. So we'll see what she comes up with next year, but for now, prop betting still alive in Louisiana, and I imagine a lot of other states will kind of look to this as well as, hey, maybe we shouldn't go out with an all right ban quite yet, and kind of take our time and propose something more pointed and specific that can really tackle the problem.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, any state that loses money is not going to be proposing ways to lose more money, and that's what prop bets do, is they make money for the sports books. All right, Sam, it is great to catch up with you here on NewsWire, and we'll see you again Friday as we get ready to close out the week. Appreciate you coming on. And again, read all of Sam's work over at LegalSportsReport.com. Thanks for the time, Sam. All right, we'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. When we come back next, we'll be joined by Simon Applebaum of the podcast Tomorrow Will Be Televised. Simon has the very latest on the sports ratings, the viewership and streaming ratings of the NCAA basketball tournament, and also get into the men's and women's side to tell us how many folks are actually watching. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish, and we'll be back right after this quick timeout. So Welcome back to NewsWire. Simon Applebaum is with us from the podcast. Tomorrow will be televised to go over the NCAA tournament and a whole lot more. Simon, great to have you back here on NewsWire. All right, so let's dive right in. We had two mega schools playing for the national championship on Monday on the men's side. On the women's side, very exciting finish and a rare win for a team out west winning a championship there. What were the numbers in for those games?
Well, Craig, great to be back with you. And we can tell you about the women's numbers because Nielsen's slow on the draw as of this moment in terms of getting us the men's numbers. In terms of the women's championship game on Sunday afternoon, there was a 3:30 game start on ABC. 9.9 million people watched the game. That is up 15% from last year. It is down from 2 years ago when Caitlin Clark figured in the Final Four. And for the Final Four, for the national semifinal games that were held on Friday night, very rare deal for this, and they were on ESPN, 5.5 million for both games. So despite the fact that you had some very interesting games on the women's side and a blowout Sunday afternoon on ABC, having 9.9 million people watch was really something. And it was a great game, by the way, for UCLA. Not great for South Carolina. When it comes to the men's tournament, I'm very curious to see whether the close game on Monday night on TBS, TNT, True TV, and so forth, simulcast, on top of the blowout games that happened on Saturday afternoon, how that will figure in the final score. Going into the Final Four, the viewership was up 10% from a year ago, 10 million people watching on average for the tournament. I would think, given the closeness of the game Monday night, that they will the men's championship game will be at least slightly up from last year.
I think this year in particular, more than any other, we're going to be streaming the Masters, Simon, and certainly there's a lot of places to do that. Of course, their app, which is fantastic, is really the easiest way. But the other way that folks will be doing it this year is via Amazon Prime. They have Thursday and Friday coverage, Simon. How did they land this? And furthermore, I guess I would ask this. Why did they choose to land this when these streaming options are free and available?
Well, I think Prime Video chose to go after this because, number one, don't forget last year they had the Skins game on Black Friday. It led off their wonderful Black Friday programming, which was Skins game, then the afternoon, the Black Friday NFL game, and then the Prime Video doubleheader. So they had a really great time with Black Friday. And I think they did well with the Skins game. The reason why they got the Masters is because the Augusta National Golf Club, which is a real funny type of an organization when it comes to controlling. They're really control freaks when it comes to television coverage. Sort of suggested, hey, maybe it's time that we give viewers the opportunity to see golf coverage earlier. A lot of people don't know this, but of the four major golf tournaments, the Masters is the only one where you cannot see on television a full, complete round. Until this year, you had the full continuous coverage start on ESPN at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Pacific. Now, Prime Video gets 2 hours both tomorrow and on Friday. Starts at 1 p.m. Eastern. That's 10 a.m. Pacific. Now, this is not a moneymaker for Prime Video. Why? Because of the control freak situation of the Augusta National Golf Club, which sponsors, of course, and holds the Masters sells the ad time. It's all national ad time to only a few sponsors, 3, 4 at most, like Mercedes-Benz, like IBM. They've been longtime sponsors. So Prime Video does not sell ad time on their own. There's no local ad time or regional ad time. So Prime Video is doing this as a way to sort of say to the rest of the world, hey, we are a major sports player. We got Thursday Night Football. We have NBA doubleheaders on Friday nights. We're going to have the WNBA starting next month. We've got the Skins game, and so on. So for Prime Video, while this is not going to be a moneymaker for them, it is going to be a big boost for them in terms of their prestige as a major sports player. And keep this in mind. If this works, where you go from 1 to 3 o'clock both tomorrow and Friday, there's a possibility because the Masters has 1-year contracts with CBS, with Paramount Plus, with ESPN. They renegotiate the contract every year. If the coverage works, and I believe that CBS Sports will be involved in the coverage in terms of the actual visuals, that Prime Video could get more coverage on Saturday, on Sunday, and maybe, who knows, we could see a Masters round start as early as next year, far earlier on television than it is now.
Yeah, I mean, to think through the years, it never started until late afternoon on Thursday and Friday. They figured out quick. People want to watch that. Okay, so this is an interesting story here to bring to folks here. For those people who use YouTube, there's a new feature that is powered by AI, artificial intelligence, like so many things these days. And what is this exactly, Simon? It involves videos and being able to basically ask questions during the video. Tell us more.
Absolutely, Craig. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that YouTube was testing what they call a conversational AI tool. Here's how it works. You're watching a YouTube program, and you want to have a question about the program answered. You use your voice, you use your remote control, there's an ask button that is on the TV screen. That's provided by YouTube, and you say, YouTube, show me such and such, or what about such and such? And you get the answer on the screen without pausing or stopping the video. And you can have the kind of conversation where it could end up in a transaction. Let's say you're watching Yankees highlights, and you can say, YouTube, when is the next game at Yankee Stadium? You see that information on the screen. How much is the cost? What seats are available? You see that information on the screen. All right, call the Yankee Stadium box office. I want to make a reservation for 2 tickets for this game starting at this time. For this much money, I'll pay it this way, and you get the transaction handled through the television set. What makes this now important is that YouTube last week decided we're going to go from being a beta test to a national rollout. So technically, if you have YouTube on your smart TV set, you can get this feature. And if we see transactions and other types of situations come out of these conversations, it's not out of the question to think that if this system is very secure, it's scam-free, that YouTube could be down the road, and maybe not too far down the road, that a sports betting on the television set player. So keep your eye on this, as well as all the other ventures where you're seeing agents like Gemini from Google and Alexa Plus from Amazon being put to use on smart TV sets.
All right. Well, Simon, enjoy the Masters this week and all of the, of course, NBA games before we hit the playoffs and baseball as well. You and I will chat next week ahead of those NBA playoffs and find out exactly where to watch the ball. Thanks again for coming on.
You're welcome, Craig. Take care. Enjoy the Masters starting tomorrow.
Simon Applebaum from the podcast Tomorrow Will Be Televised. Last Licks is up next. Don't go away. All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Not exactly a funny moment, but a moment nonetheless happening in Major League Baseball yesterday. Jorge Soler apparently did take exception to a pitch that was thrown at him and charged the mound and basically proceeded to just throw haymakers against his old team, the Atlanta Braves. Soler is a very big man, and although we have some pictures and photos of this, what you don't see here is Walt Weiss, the manager of the Braves, had to tackle Soler in order to get him to stop fighting.
Here comes Soler going after Lopez. They square up, and Soler and Lopez are throwing haymakers. They're going after each other. Soler is finally tackled from behind as the Angels and Braves are all out onto the field. That came up out of nowhere. Soler was upset after a couple of pitches.
Here's why you don't see a manager tackling a player pretty often at all. All right, we'll wrap up the show, by the way, with some food at Truist Park. Also, some mascot news, which we always love to wrap up the show with. So let's do that. It's time now for some last licks. As we continue to go around the league with the best food options for those of you traveling this summer to your favorite Major League Baseball stadium, let's give you what they got going on in Atlanta. The Atlanta Braves have put together the 7-inch burger. Wow, that sounds like a lot. That's called the Bat Flip. This creation features 2 pounds of seasoned beef patties, braised short rib, crispy pork belly, melted cheese, crunchy onions, green leaf lettuce. There it is. Okay, I was waiting to show you that. I mean, that thing is huge. I mean, who could eat that thing? There's a fried egg on there too. Like, that thing is just like, come on. Nobody could literally grab that burger and just take a bite. You're eating that with a fork and a knife and probably a lot more. But either way, that would be like, if I had that at the ballpark, that would be it for me. That would be like a food coma, not just for a day, but like for a week. But it does look good. I am actually getting hungry for lunch. Wonder what I'm going to have today. All right, story for another day. Let's get to the Mammoth debut for the Mammoth. Last night during their game against the Oilers, the Mammoth debuted the Mammoth. It's not a Zamboni. However, it once was, built from the Zamboni used in the 2002 Salt Lake Winter Olympic Games. The Mammoth is a piece of Utah history. 3D tusks, a trunk of the team mascot, and let's just be honest, it's just a very cool looking Zamboni. Interactive experience, special effects, custom lighting, and a sound system, according to the team. You do have to wonder, by the way, after all these years, why other NHL teams took so long to like do cool things when they have the Zamboni breaks on the ice. I don't know why, but finally some teams are getting around to doing it, and this is a really cool idea from Utah. Okay, so for those of you betting the Masters, you may want to know who not to bet. And it's probably going to be that guy. Why? Because whoever the most bet player is at the Masters is not going to win, right? So it's Bryson DeChambeau. Currently over 12% of the tickets on the FanDuel Sportsbook are on him to win the green jacket. You may ask why Bryson. Number one, very popular on YouTube. A lot of people like watching him. Younger people who bet on sports love his content. That's number one. Number two, he's come very close the last couple of years. He's the biggest hitter, and usually the biggest hitters win at the Masters. And although he has not won, there's a lot of folks that think that this is the season for him. By the way, not just Bryson DeChambeau, Ludwig Oberg, Scotty Scheffler, and Cameron Young. Those are the most bet options on the FanDuel Sportsbook of the Masters. So here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow here on the show, I am out, but Adam Kaufman will be here in the house. And so what he will do is on our show tomorrow, give you the full leaderboard update come noon Eastern. Remember, they tee off very early in the morning at the Masters. So for the first 2 days, our NewsWire show will have full coverage of everything going on at Augusta. Hopefully the weather holds up for that as well. I will be back with you on the Friday edition of NewsWire, so I hope to see you then. Thanks to all of our guests here on the show today, including the great Lee Steinberg. Thanks for him making an appearance here on the show. Make sure you pick up his new book about his life called The Comeback. Also, Brady Kannon talking golf with us, Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report, and Simon Applebaum, who we just had on from the podcast Tomorrow will be televised. Plenty of baseball action going on this afternoon as well. Shohei Ohtani on the mound against the Toronto Blue Jays for the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's a later start, 4 p.m. Eastern. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everyone. I'll see you back here on Friday for our next edition of NewsWire. Thanks to Tommy, of course, and Chris as well. Have a great day, everyone. I will see you then.